Dan Schneider is a name that everyone's familiar with. We took a look at his weird, dodgy, shady past about a month and a half ago when the TV show Quiet on the Set came out, where we had Drake Bell talk about his experiences and we had other Nickelodeon stars talk about their own experiences regarding Dan Schneider and others. And in case you guys need a recap, those videos will be at the end of this video. So in case you guys need a refresher, need to catch up, or are just kind of lost. Today I stumbled upon one of the most ironic things ever. It says Dan Schneider has sued Quiet on Set producers for defamation, claiming they falsely portrayed him as a child predator.
Really, nigga?
You know what this looks like? This kind of looks like the Spider-Man meme where all three are pointing at each other. It's the creeps and Nickelodeon, Dan Schneider, and Quiet on Set. It's like they're all pointing at each other like, who's at it? Who's the creep out here? I mean, the fact that Dan Schneider, with his extremely shady and weird past, the fact that he thinks he could he could free himself from this, it's like, brother, you could win the defamation lawsuit and people will forever associate you with two things, feet. And we're gonna get into the whole article, but very briefly I want to take a look at some of the replies to this tweet. I mean, this got 6 million views, lots of opinions out there. This person says, not this predator thinking he has a case, LMAO. If the shoe fits, and we all know Dan Schneider loves feet. The interview he did with T-Bone from iCarly was absolutely BS. It was the definition of a PR move to get as much heat off him as possible. And all you need is one Google or one YouTube search to look into everything Dan Schneider has done and has been part of for you to be like, what is brother yapping about? He has absolutely nothing to say regarding this matter. But let's just get into the article. Dan Schneider sues for defamation over Quiet on Set, painted me as a child predator. I mean, the allegations were there long before the show came out. These things date back to early 2000s, so you know, everyone low-key kind of already knew Dan Schneider was a creep, was a weirdo. This show was a nice reminder to be, oh yeah, Dan Schneider, I mean, he loves feet and them young girls. He's qualified to be a Minecraft YouTuber. Dan Schneider is taking producers of Quiet on Set to court, claiming they defamed him, okay, by falsely portraying him as a child sexual abuser at Nickelodeon and ruining his reputation. Brother, your reputation was ruined almost 10 years ago. The person who is to blame for your horrible, weird reputation is yourself. Like, trying to blame it on Quiet on Set, like, this was like an open secret, everyone knew. The famed TV producer just filed a defamation lawsuit obtained by TMZ, slamming the docuseries and its creators, including Warner Bros., Discovery, and all of that fun stuff, for falsely implying he sexually abused the child actors who worked on his TV shows back in the day. I don't know what kind of Kool-Aid brother is drinking, but he ain't thinking straight. And then they showed photos of him, and it's like, how do you manage to look creepy in all of them? Dan's lawyers don't mince words, blasting, and I quote, Quiet on Set as a hit job. As you know, Dan created The Amanda Show, Drake and Josh, 101, etc., iCarly, Victorious during his tenure at Nickelodeon. And in Quiet on Set, he was the main focus. I mean, if you do watch the full series, I think it's like 4 or 5 episodes on Max. Like, yeah, he is brought up from time to time, but like, he wasn't the main focus. The main focus, the one that gathered the most attention, was definitely that creep, Brian Peck, the guy who sexually assaulted Drake Bell. So I would say it was about 2 other people ahead of Dan Schneider. It's going to be really interesting to see if any Nickelodeon stars who had bad experiences with him are going to come forward. And the fact that Dan Schneider thinks he's an innocent guy, it's like, this is low-key giving me OJ Simpson vibes. No, that love does not fit. It wasn't me. I didn't murder my wife. And in case anyone's in doubt, just search Dan Schneider creepy. This one with 2.3 million views, Dan Schneider creepy moments, 8 minutes long. And then we have this super unknown YouTuber, but he's the best and you should all subscribe to him. Just someone that I will never want to be around with. I'd rather kill myself than to be in a room with Dan Schneider for more than 2 seconds. But let's just get back into the article. Dan's lawsuit alleges the docuseries used manipulative editing techniques to create a false impression of Schneider. Free Dan Schneider, he did nothing wrong. Honestly, give him more feed pics, please. The suit claims the defendants try to lump Schneider into the same bucket as the 2 other convicted child sex offenders who worked on some of the Nickelodeon shows. He says the defendants did it all for clickbait, rating, and views, or simply money. I mean, I'm not saying He's wrong about that because, you know, the whole point of making videos or making TV shows is to get viewers and to make money. You know, that's the whole point of it. I'm sure the people over at Quiet On Set were like, we got such a juicy story. This is going to be viral. We're going to make a lot of money. Which, if you're honest about it, there's nothing wrong with exposing freaks. How many people knew about the whole Brian Peck and the other guy who's legitimately a child sex offender? How many people knew of those two? Or how many people knew about the whole Drake Bell situation? So this show definitely did more good than bad, in my opinion. It definitely got a lot of eyes on this type of work environment. The vibes that I'm getting from this is just he's trying to play the victim. He's like, I don't know what's going on. They're painting me to be the bad guy. Brother, are you kidding me right now? You've had the worst reputation out of any Nickelodeon big time producers ever. Do you think it's just random that Nickelodeon decided to drop you? Dan goes to claim Quiet On Set used misleading statements and editing techniques in the trailer and several episodes to falsely create the impression he was a pedophile. For instance, the lawyer points to the trailer where his rise and success at Nickelodeon was tied to what the series described as one of the darkest chapters. I mean, is it really lying though? Schneider does, however, concede in the lawsuit he was blind to some of his bad behavior towards colleagues, cast members, etc., but insists such behavior was not in any way connected to child sex abuse. He tells TMZ recently the docuseries Quiet On Set highlighted mistakes I made and poor judgment I exhibited during my time at Nickelodeon. Most of it happened decades ago. During my early career as a producer working on shows, he keeps yapping. There's no doubt that I was sometimes a bad leader. I am sincerely apologetic and regretful for that behavior, and I will continue to take accountability for it. And then he goes back to crying. Still, he says he had no choice but to take legal action, stating the docuseries is an attempt to mislead viewers for ratings. Dan, your peak was 15 years ago. Let it go. Let's say you win this lawsuit, right? Is Nickelodeon going to hire you now? Are you going to be back to producing? It's like, brother, you did your stuff. You did some really weird stuff. A lot of people don't like you. They have horrible experiences of working with you. You know, what's this going to accomplish? Dan is suing for defamation and seeking unspecified damages. That Nickelodeon money must be running low. And this is the funniest part, and claiming he has suffered mental distress and financial losses as a result of the docuseries. So he claims that he's lost money and, his reputation and his mental health and all of that. But he was let go from Nickelodeon in March of 2018. This show literally just came out. Shouldn't your losses happen in 2018? Okay, maybe not 18. What about 19? Okay, let's be generous. Next year, 2020? Let's be extra generous. 2021? Like, stop the cap. Stop the cap, dude. Dan Schneider's split from the network came after the creator's allegedly abused behavior began to come to light. Deadline reported that members of his staff were filing multiple complaints of abusive behavior against Schneider. Oh, will you look at that? Wouldn't this be your financial loss, not some fucking show? I mean, you haven't worked on anything in years, dude. And this is from 2022. Dan Schneider accused of hypersexual practices at Nick. And I just very briefly want to talk about his IMDb. He's claiming, this docuseries has ruined my reputation. Brother, your reputation has been ruined for over 10 years. Stop the cap. And financial loss. You haven't worked on anything in years. Like, it shows this Good Burger 2. He worked on the original one. And it says that this came out in 2023. So does that mean, he worked on this? No, this was based on characters created by him. Same with the iCarly reboot and the Zoe 101 reboot. Like, he didn't technically work on them, but he did create this universe, if you will. So he has to be credited, even though he hasn't worked at Nickelodeon in years. The last time he actually worked on something was Sam and Cat, if I'm not mistaken. And then he was the writer for one episode on The After Party. And then ever since then, it's just been like, he created this, so we have to credit him. So you haven't worked on anything, dude. And it's like, even before this show was supposed to come out, you weren't getting hired to do anything for your extremely dodgy and shady past, dude. I think it's absolutely hilarious that he's crying about this all of these years later, when everyone and their mama knows that Dan Schneider is a major creep, and it took him 10 years for him to finally sue them. It's like, what jobs opportunities have you lost? You're never going to be able to get close to another kid's show. So, and that's what you're mainly known for. That's pretty much all you did. I don't know. I just imagine Mini Lad suing a whole bunch of YouTubers for the same reason. And it's like, do we gotta pull those DMs again, buddy? I don't know what he's trying to accomplish with this. I hope he takes a fat L. I don't know. It's just weird. Out of everyone, you would be like, what? Why is Dan Schneider suing them? And with that said, I'll see you next time. Peace out.